Hey everybody, welcome to my random thoughts on Scandal episode 613, which was The Box. I'm not going to really have time to edit this, and I'm going to have to look down at my notes. So do forgive me if there are some awkward pauses and things like that. All right? Okay, so first of all, I love the episode. I actually found it to be a lot of slavery references and symbolism brought up in a modern context, and hopefully I can kind of weave those in as I go through. Again, another really strong episode, a seeming conclusion to the whole payas and ponytail reign of terror and trying to take over the Oval. You know, kind of like how the Russians did this last week, waltzing up in there with only Russian press into the real life Oval. But in any case, okay, so we start the episode off with Luna Vargas addressing at the press briefing, addressing the press, right? Because it picks up right where 612 leaves off, and Melly introducing Luna Vargas as her new VP. Let's just get this out of the way. Luna means light and also the moon. It's very interesting that Luna is a kind of illumination in the kind of darkness. And we think about that with all that she's gone through with her husband's assassination and what all of these players have gone through. I'm going to say more about where I think the theory I have about Luna, and I'm sure a lot of people have already thought about it as well. But she's addressing everyone. And I just sat and listened. I thought, she sounds mighty presidential up there, you know, at the podium about wanting to, further her husband's legacy, and how at first she was going to turn this down, but she thought this is a chance for me to heal myself and also to heal the nation. And I thought, you sound like a leader up there to me, more of a leader to me than anything Melly has done in the last several episodes. She's been like a damsel in distress, and it's not like she's the only one caught up in this. I know she's going to be the president, so a lot is weighing on her, but something is just off with her, and I hope to God it's gonna bring us somewhere good with her and Olivia that frankly involves neither one of them either being in the White House or at least staying there. Okay. So another random thought of, I noticed how many women are in Fitz's administration, right? We have, the National Security Advisor who was a woman, and then we had another advisor who, in the Situation Room, a Latino man. They're really the only two that get to speak directly to the president, right? So female general, and we know that the CIA director is a woman, the FBI director is a woman, unless she got demoted or took that job in Des Moines. And several other of his secretaries have been women as well. The head of the NSA, and previously not the head of the NSA. And a couple of other jobs, which I can't remember right now. His legal counsel last season, right, when he was going to be charged with impeachment. Another woman. So lots of women in Fitz's administration and as advisors as well. I love that Shonda is doing this, and I love it fits with Fitz's personality and what he said in 612 about loving these tornado women who know who they are and kind of take the world by storm. That's just who he is. So Payas calls Olivia and he says, "You have something that belongs to me." Right? And it took me back to how Melly is really this possession that's at play. And she's not only a possession for Payas and his lot and his boss, which I'm going to try not to talk about Maya until the 614 one. And I thought about how Melly is actually a possession for Olivia too, right? That when she gets on the Melly train, it's really to further her own self. It's not because she's a great believer, but she knows Melly pretty well. And, the only person's puppet that she wants Melly to be really is hers. Because a person can wield far more power in the shadows than they could directly. Olivia has seen that over the last 8 years in the roles that she has been. So her quest to be chief of staff, which she kind of was serving as in a way in the first half of season 5 when she kind of pushed Cyrus out, right? Cyrus saw that Olivia was taking over his job and essentially being the president because she was doing everything, and Fitz was allowing this, right, because of his trust and his love for her. So Olivia really wants to essentially be able to come back and repeat that with Melly, thinking that, well, if I don't have the whole love thing, there's not going to be anything that's going to drive me from the White House or get in my way. I'll just be able to just do the job and feel that power high that I felt before. So Melly is a possession for Olivia, her key to power, because with the presidency, we have seen all of these players, from Defiance, right? All of them had jobs lined up for themselves and roles that they were going to play in the administration or connected to it. And none of it would have been possible if Fitz were not president. So he needed to be president in order to make their dreams come true. They were all going to be living through them, an extension of him, if you will, of his power. And so now Olivia wants to replace that with Melly. And for me, I just don't feel like it's going to work with that particular dynamic. I've stated before how frankly I am sort of resentful of it with their relationship in the past. They are a sisterhood of the traveling, and I'm not here for it. I don't want to see it. No. And spare me the nasty woman speeches, which I will get to later on. Like, stop trying to heap Hillary Rodham Clinton tease on somebody so undeserving. I'm like, it's such an insult to Hillary. Anyway, he said, Pay said something about you may have been able to protect your family by putting the country at risk, right? So that's Rowan. And that made me think about how Olitz was always going to be doomed while Fitz was president, right? Like, they were never, ever going to work out as much as we thought, oh, this could work, or if Liv had just kind of stayed, or, whatever. They were always going to find some kind of way to use Olivia against Fitz, or Fitz against Olivia, to get what they want, and the they being whoever wanted their power, because what Rowan has been trying to emphasize, and Olivia kind of bought into for a very long time, is that love is this weakness, and which means the ties that bind you, right? That not having that in the way would kind of guaranteed a smoother ride to power, which is what she attempts after breaking up with Fitz and leaving the White House. But it seems like Liv is intent on staying with Fitz if the AU, the alternative universe we see in 610 is any indication. There's no breakup on the horizon, which there better not be, because I'm fucking tired. Okay? It's about time. Like, it feels different this time, and I really hope that is the case. So we shall see. We have 2 episodes left. And y'all know how Shonda is. Everything could be bright and cheery up to the last 5 minutes and then go to shit. Like, literally, that happened in season 2. So, emphasizing this whole run with me, go away, let me save you, let's run to freedom, which is the other. Okay, so that's one of the main kind of slavery themes and symbolism that comes up in this episode. In fact, the whole running theme, specifically for Olivia and trying to run away from a problem or run towards freedom, but she's never really known where the North Star is, right? She's never really known how to get to the promised land, because she doesn't know what she wants, right? She just knows that she needs to escape this place because it feels bad, it feels shameful, it hurts too much. So Rowan trying to get to Zanzibar, or the Black Skin Coast, and I've explained this already about Paris and Zanzibar coming up as really interesting places for Black people to escape to escape the oppression and lack of safe spaces in the United States. That he's consistently trying to get her to run, because if you stay, you will die. So the only type of freedom that you're going to have in this situation is for you to run away with me, your father, who is your protector. At least that's how he's built himself, like his entire life with Olivia. And Liv rightly questions him, like, when did you become a man who runs? Running is something you tell me to do out of fear, right? We all remember season 3 when he told her she's skipping around in a field of bombs thinking that they're daisies and that she needs to run far away. And gets her a plane in order to do that. And we've seen Olivia almost the end of every season run away from things. And the only useful time that she ran, where it was good, was in the episode Run, when she got kidnapped. Again, connected to the whole slavery, Black women as property, a commodity type of a thing coming up. So the fact that Liv brings this up with Rowan really has me questioning it as well, because I'm like, yeah, I just find it really hard to believe that after what Rowan has experienced in these, really, it's been maybe a couple of months since this has gone on with him, a few months, with these people, I just don't trust him. I don't trust him that this is clean. And frankly, I just don't accept that if the writers are trying to redeem this man and be like, oh, look, he's a good guy. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. No. I'm not going to accept it, because I keep thinking of everything that he has done in the name of so-called protection and all of the abuse and harm that he's done, and I don't forgive you. I don't forgive you. No. So to me, anything that he suffered under the hands of these people, and really at the hands of his ex-wife, which just makes it so delicious. I don't care, bruh. It's called karma, and it's a bitch named Maya, so... So I'm just real curious about him, you know, even though I gain a little respect for him later in the episode. So Olivia challenges, there's a whole lot of talk about legacy in this episode, right? And what's your legacy going to be? The thing that you leave behind, the thing that you bequeath. And Olivia, both in this episode and in 614 as well. Olivia challenges Rowan on his legacy. What's the thing that you're leaving behind? Are you done building? You're just going to run off to Zanzibar. You're done, right? Because Olivia is far from being done. She doesn't want to give up. She's young and still seeking to make a name for herself and rise to the ultimate kind of place of power. So she doesn't understand. Now she doesn't understand, she doesn't want Rowan to go, right? And she's trying to use the whole idea of a legacy to kind of convince him that he needs to stay, which I feel like kind of plays into his hands, because he wants her to want him. He wants her to love him, I think, especially in the ways that he's seen her love Fitz. And that jealousy kind of comes up later in their scene together. So he tries to place himself in this kind of pivotal position to see if she'll choose him or she'll want him, you know, so many times. Least of all last season when he was in jail and then got himself put in the hospital and was faking arrhythmias, right? And Liv was all so scared about her dad that she ends up ruining her relationship in order to save him. And he would have her do that every single time, even though he talks about family being a burden. Yet he's there, right? So this idea that, oh, Rowan is just Olivia's protector. No, he's not. He's also there because she's the only person that makes him feel relevant, the only person that reminds him of his own humanity, his only like connection to life. Because other than that, he's been a shadow with all of these like fake sons. She's the only thing real that he has. And he wants to be able to keep that connection in some ways without looking vulnerable or seeming like he cares too much. I really feel like we see it kind of here and a little bit in 614 at the restaurant scene that Liv, I really feel like she's kind of scared to be left behind from Rowan. At one point, I think she very much wanted her, more than at one point, she very much wanted her father to leave her alone. Certainly in season 4, she wanted him to leave her the fuck alone. And she didn't even want to answer his call in like season 5. She hung up on him when he called from the hospital at first. But now that he's been back in her life and after leaving Fitz, she swings all the way over to the dark side and becomes Rowanka and seeing all of the helpful ways of her father. Not to say that there aren't helpful, but she's like fully full pendulum swing to the left, right? Everything that's not fantastic or out of sorts is gauche. So the swing is to the left. Yeah, Olivia is kind of afraid to be left behind, or that question of who is she really going to be without Fitz? I remember her telling Melly in like 5:11 when Melly comes over to her apartment and doing this whole thing about, you know, you're strong and, you know, put in your book that you didn't need a man to like make you know who you are. You didn't need a man to get you where you need to be. And I thought, you think that you're talking to yourself about Fitz, but who you're actually talking about is your father, because I don't know if you know who you are without his training, without his so-called wisdom, without his protection, except when you were kidnapped. I don't know if she knows, right? And that's still a quest for her of who is this person and who do I want to be that's independent of this legacy that I've gained with these two crazy parents and the hardships that has been at my life, especially separation and imprisonment and violence and abuse. All of those things are really kind of endemic to Black families as legacy that's passed down from slavery, the separation, all of those things that sometimes we have to kind of suffer. You know, I kind of share with Liv that you know, at the age of 12, both of our mothers kind of disappeared into a jail cell, essentially, for a significant portion of time. She was left with her father and me with my kind of grandparents, though my father was kind of around. And it's a really pivotal kind of part of your life. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway. Yeah, so Rowan is in some ways being the same old Rowan, this binary choice of stay and die or run and be free. This is just a random thought. When Jake went in to see Ponytail that first time, I just felt like, does he hate women? I don't think he loves women. Like, he borderline or maybe over the line hates Olivia and has a kind of disdain for her at many times. Like, him talking about loving Olivia has never been true to me, because I don't even think that this man understands or knows what love is, because he's never really had freedom. And I feel like love is not bondage, and that if you don't know who you are, can't make decisions for yourself and depend on somebody else telling you what to do, I really don't know that you can love another person. You know what I mean? Like truly love them, because I don't know that he's ever wanted Olivia to be free. He's just wanted her to be with him. That's not the same thing. Contrast Fitz is, I just want you to be happy, and his kind of commitment to Olivia's life and well-being to Jake's run away with me, save me, escape with me. They're very different things. So I was thinking about, okay, so the Abby and Cyrus scene. I was thinking about the whole Abby and Cyrus thing, right? And that Abby seems to have been sidelined / perhaps has sorry, I'm like messing with this. I don't know. Maybe I just want to be naked. I don't know. You know what it is? I want to show off my tan. I was in Jamaica and you can see I'm a little bit tan. Anyway, so I was thinking about the Abby and Cyrus scene. And Cyrus is like, you've been frozen out by Fitz. And I swear to God that they have had this chat before about how being in Fitz's Siberia is one of the worst things, because Cyrus knows what that is like, and he was warning Abby against it. This is like a previous episode. And he recognizes that, oh, Red is there right now. You're recognizing what it is to feel it. But I really think it's a mutual thing, that Fitz, I don't know that Fitz is angry at Red. He's not angry with her. There's no anger. And I don't think the idea is that he hasn't forgiven her. I think the idea is that he does not trust her, and I don't think Abby trusts herself to be as close to that ring of power anymore, to be in that inner circle. That the talk that she has with David in 6:14, when she says, I never thought that I was a good person, but I never thought I'd be an evil one. And that, you know, being cold and lonely, she reached for something warm and shiny because someone made her feel like something. You know, I think a lot of people can relate to that in many ways, different periods of our life. And I wonder if Fitz thinks that he is protecting Abby by creating this kind of distance with her and the Oval, or is it that Olivia is there now, so Abby is kind of sidelined? Like, I don't know if that's part of it. Is he sidelining Abby for Olivia's sake? I don't know, but there's something weird going on there, and I really think that part of it is not about what Fitz is doing to Abby, but also about Abby self-consciously kind of keeping herself away from there because she's afraid of what she had become and doesn't want to be with that person. So maybe there's some like self-reflection happening there. And let me insert this. I said I would talk about Maya next episode, but I just want to say, I really thought about how in this episode, see how much darker my hands are. Thought about in this episode how Maya uses Rowan's own philosophy and forms of exploitation against him, right? She puts the tracker in Ponytail's neck, and there was probably one in Pais's neck too, right? Rowan had a tracker in her neck, which she discovered they discovered in 309, and I think Huck cut it out? Yeah. Then there is the whole fear thing, which Pais's name literally, I think, is a Greek term meaning fear or fright, right? So the strategic use of fear. The exploitation of Rowan, his knowledge, his networks, and what he's capable of doing. And exploitation of his loved ones, which he has done to Olivia, or even people that she cares about, right? With Huck, even with Jake. She's even had to beg her father not to like hurt or harm Fitz. So Rowan took that literally and kills his son instead. Disarming him with charm and romance, right? Using Sandra, a woman that he loved in the past before he made a mistake with Maya, which we all remember that Rowan is a mark, right? Rowan was Maya's mark. She pretended to be in love with him. So Olivia wasn't born from love. She was born from exploitation, which is really fucked up. And the whole, not just, charm and love, but the whole idea of sending in someone to romance to romance a person and kind of distract them and gain their trust using sex, which is what Sandra does. But there's genuine feeling there, because that's the only way that Rowan was ever going to fall for that shit. And even then, he ends up putting a gun against her neck. So every single one of these forms of exploitation, Rowan has done that shit to his own daughter. So, like I said from earlier, forgive me if I'm not like, oh, poor Rowan. Oh. No. Yeah, there's, dare I say, some self-reflection. Melly has wanted to give up or just end the suffering or take responsibility by letting herself be taken, which Olivia will not allow, because as I said, without Melly, as Melly told her back in 602, without me, you have nothing. And that is so true, right? It's a very dependent form of power that Olivia is banking on. And I really hope to God, if I think Shonda is the writer that she is, that Olivia's going to really have to face the question of, what is my own power that's not dependent on these people? And what is it that I really want, as that law school student speaking into the camera saying that I really wanted to make a difference? Have you made that difference at the White House? Do you feel like that's the only place that you can make it? He calls Liv out on her bullshit of trying to protect her father as just this weakling who's only entirely been manipulated and victimized and isn't of any use, which in part I can understand, but like I said, I just don't buy it. And Fitz doesn't either, right? Because he's seen the difference between what Olivia says about Rowan and how Rowan actually is, right? It's complicated. So he's like, you mean to tell me that your master manipulator father didn't find out anything in all of this time? Basically, don't you think more of him than that? Remember who you're dealing with here, right? Rowan is Olivia's huge blind spot. She wants him to be the victim so bad. That way she could coddle him and he could just be daddy instead of this really complicated being that he is. When Fitz, they both go down to see Rowan, and this episode, subsequent scenes between Rowan and Fitz, made me realize Olivia is the problem between these two men, kind of literally and physically when she is there, because they both try to peacock when she's there. They both try to show up the weakness in the other person so that they can rise in esteem in her eyes, like in a way. It's done differently, but the theory that I've kind of been going with here is that Rowan always insults, his insults focus on making Fitz look weak and thus undesirable to live, right? Because Rowan, in contrast, is a man in control, a man who knows what he's doing and controls all. He's got power, and he wants Olivia to be not only attracted to that, but someone who knows how to wield it and is in control of it. So he rises in esteem, Rowan rises in esteem in Olivia's eyes, that's the thinking, by pointing out Fitz's weaknesses. But the thing is, Olivia won't want to ever find a man like her father. One, Rowan doesn't want to become extinct, right, in Olivia's eyes. So he doesn't actually want her to find anybody that she loves, no one that would ever replace him, right? And two, Olivia doesn't want a man like her father because some of the things that she loves in Fitz are the opposite of Rowan. And whenever Fitz tries to behave in these kind of macho man ways, she shoots him down. She does not like it, right? The whole moving her in, she totally mistook that as some kind of imprisonment, or Fitz kind of exerting control and lockdown of the relationship, which, you know, is not a quality that she likes about him, and is not one that Fitz like actively displays. So whenever he gets too close to the qualities of her father, the ones that she doesn't like, she pushes against Fitz. For Fitz, he plays up Rowan's neglect of Olivia, his selfishness, his manipulation, which shows that he, Fitz, is ready to be Olivia's main man and protector in Liv's life. Again, showing the contrast between the two men. It's very much, it reminds me of the Bible verse. Y'all, I haven't gone to church in so long. I just know it's in the New Testament, where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he talks about that basically there comes a time for a man to leave his parents, you know, cleave from them, move away from them, and then cleave to his wife. That when you form that new relationship, that's when you kind of leave that parental relationship behind. It's not dead, it's just not your priority anymore. And I don't think Rowan ever wants for that to happen. When Rowan says that, keeps insisting that Payas won and that Liv and Fitz and the rest of them have lost, it reminded me of Rowan in the past telling Liv that against me, you will lose, right? Rowan doesn't want to be a loser. He's not a loser. So if he can't find a surefire way to win, he doesn't want to participate in this at all, because abstaining is better than losing. Which, holy shit, that's where Liv was at in like 512, when Huck challenges her and says, you're not even playing the game. Your father and what's that boy's name? Jake are up to something, and you're not even investigating. And she said, the only way to not lose is not to play at all. So that's what Rowan is doing right now, right? Until he figures out what it is that he needs to do to guarantee his daughter's freedom and also walk away a winner. Fitz kind of echoes something that Liv says earlier when he says he's wondering kind of out loud where Mr. Republic has gone. And we have all heard those speeches by Rowan about, you know, the Republic and how he is the Republic, he makes democracy possible and all of these things. And he has been kind of weakened in a way. Olivia took away a lot of his Rowan utility, right? And let Eli, her daddy, out of jail, right? She imprisoned Rowan and she let Eli out of jail. And later we hear Eli, Rowan talk about how he was once this kind of a great person, and now he's just a father who can barely protect his daughter, right? So in some ways he's been reduced, and even that reduced level, he feels infantilized and not being able to take care of his daughter, he says to Fitz later, which again, that is another kind of slavery legacy with Black men, the brutalization of slavery that didn't respect families, love, or marriages between Black people, which is why I tell you guys that loving a Black person is a revolutionary thing, because we were never meant to be loved or to love each other. So, you know, drag each other less and love each other more. Except for Lakers, I'm going to keep dragging you guys. Slavery kind of infantilized Black men, prevented them from being able to protect their families, because all of them were essentially deemed as property, and these men had really no rights to their families. What whatsoever, could not protect women and children. And the whole hypermasculinity that some Black men have developed as a coping mechanism against that over the years is one of the responses to that kind of legacy. And we certainly see that present itself in Rowan in lots of different ways. This is very good at gaining people's trust and, kind of being charming, and in the way that fits the person and the situation. But I do have some things to say about what comes up in the scene, because I thought it to be a very well written, very well directed, and very well acted scene that was like a really pivotal moment for not only these two characters, but also the relationship that they have with the woman that is between them. Two forces, symbolic forces that Olivia has been going between for seasons now. As I said earlier, take Olivia out of the equation, take her out of the room, and these men kind of take away that posturing that they feel that they need to do and can just talk and get things off of their chest, right? And here we have Fitz kind of being the bigger person and letting Rowan get these frustrations out. Although I do feel like Fitz, I love him to death, but sometimes, like many white people, do not recognize the irony of their words, right? And Rowan was totally right to call him out on a number of things. And I just want to point some things out. So, Fitz says that, Fitz mentioned that, oh, I know how you feel. People blackmail you. They take away your sense of control. And we know from Fitz, he's reflecting on Olivia's kidnapping and how those people used her kidnapping in order to control him. And I do wonder if this is all going to come back. Because it's come up twice. That's a veiled reference to it. And then also there was a reference to it between Olivia and Fitz when they were in the Oval and drinking, right? So I wonder if somehow that's going to come full circle, because I never felt comfortable that Andrew was somehow the one behind it all. It's just not satisfactory. Anyway, so Fitz says that they have those two things in common, right? Taking away a sense of control, and taking away Rowan's sense of control and his autonomy has been a very kind of shocking thing for him, which, as I said, I don't feel any sympathy for him, because he has literally taken away Olivia's autonomy or manipulated her into thinking that she was making certain choices on her own when she was not. So I'm just like, I hope you learned something from this, and you need to apologize to your daughter. So I don't want you talking about how you've sacrificed this and sacrificed that for her. I think you owe her an apology. But Fitz then says, I've never been in control of my own life, never at any step, but really I am surrounded by people who are experts at string pulling, who make me think I am in control. You have taken so much from me, and I still admire you. And let's talk about intersectionality, right? So Fitz saying this has an entirely different weight and reality from the obvious references to not only Rowan, which he later reveals, going back decades into the 1970s, about joining the CIA and how these white people really made him feel like he was somebody, right? As they essentially tried to contain his Black power by putting it to use for the government. And Rowan kind of grew with that sense of power, that being useful to white people also, and to the structure of white supremacy, allowed him to gain some power for himself and a sense of being a man, right? And perhaps he thought even a sense of freedom, until he found out later that it's not really such, right? Because he says in 601 and then 606 that he's not a predator, that he's very smart prey trying to help his species. But I think for a very long time, he did see himself as a predator. The whole hell and high water thing, right? He was God. And Zeus has been brought down. So Fitz saying that about women in his life, about Cyrus, about all these people who have, defiance, people who have done these things behind his back, is not the same as sort of the structural idea of racism and white supremacy, literally from Black people's arrival in the United States, kind of pulling strings and controlling lives at every kind of turn. So when Rowan says to him, you don't really know control because you've never wanted it, which I think is true. We think about A.U. Fitz when he says, I don't think I ever wanted anything in my life until I met you, right? Fitz didn't really have to hunger and try to consolidate power and control, as Melly reminds him, he reminds Melly in 601, because he was born with it. He's had it. It's always been his to kind of take or leave alone, because either way, he's going to be able to prosper in ways that others are not, right? They have to take other measures in order to get there, which, if we think about it, has been reasons for some of the desperation and things that, other characters are done. Characters who are gay, characters who are women, characters who are Black, characters who are, Latino, who sit at various intersections of race, gender, and class and sexuality in ways that Fitz doesn't have to. So yes, he's had things taken from him and he has suffered, but amongst everyone, he is still far more imbued with a sense of privilege and ease in his life than anyone else has been. And I love that where we go in 614 is seeing this man take that knowledge, take what he's learned to become essentially the verb ally, if you will, and use his riches, his influence, his power for good, which is something Olivia has always kind of wanted. And it's been harder in the presidency, and harder because he was so consumed by her for a long time. But I love that Rowan then says to Fitz, you will never truly understand freedom because you've never been in chains. And I thought that was such a great line. Again, if we think about this literally, again, that's another kind of slavery reference that comes up in this episode, as I mentioned. And I thought, that's a really great line, because I think the idea of chains are very different for other people. Fitz has felt kind of chained to the White House as this prison. Melly felt that the East Wing was a prison for her, when she clearly felt she was meant for more than just First Lady, even though she wanted to be First Lady since she was 10. Then Olivia came along and, drank the same tea that Melly was drinking, thinking that, yeah, it's a prison for me too. And I got really mad because I was like, bitch, you're a Black woman. Since when has the White House domestic space been a prison for you? That's not our history, right? And her mother literally in chains by her father. So it's also ironic and rather rich that Rowan says this to Fitz when you have literally imprisoned people, even Black women, right? Even live in a prison of her own mind, in a prison of fear for all of these years. So once again, golf clap to you, because you are always on point with the historical references and your Blackness, but your misogyny card is just too much for me to bear, sir. Like I said, I love that Fitz's ability to recognize when someone needs to get something off their chest and need to get it out of their system. And he doesn't turn the focus back in on himself, becoming the affronted kind of white person whose ego is hurt, and turns it around to become the victim. I really appreciate that he's not doing that at this stage in his life, and just lets people get it out and listen. He's a good listener, despite all you Lakers out there talking about. But Jake actually listens to Olivia and he cares about her. Shut up. What do I want to say? I want to say that I was right about Rowan. I basically guessed his backstory and the damage that he's had. I said, this man right here and this whole, look at me, I'm Zeus and I'm the big black man in charge, is basically a man who has been so damaged by white supremacy that he is now kind of acting out this black patriarchy, thinking that, well, when I'm wielding that kind of power, it's going to be different because I'm going to use it for my community. But we've seen him now damage violently, in some instances, at least 3 different black women. Sandra, Maya, Olivia. It's not an accident that all of their names end in A. Hey, he didn't have anything to do with Angela, but even Angela's coming into the narrative. I was like, that's Maya coming back. When you see these black women coming in to this narrative, Maya is coming back, because there has almost been a purposeful dearth of black women in Olivia's life and in this narrative. And it makes sense because she didn't grow up with that influence. Her mother was taken from her, or took herself because of her own kind of actions, if you will, when she was 12. And so she grew up with a very masculine, kind of very black masculine role model on one hand, but also in a very distant way, growing up with rich, mostly European people away from home. So she's kind of living in both of these worlds, which black people know a lot about, the whole code switching thing and having the double consciousness and having to live these 2 kind of lives and live in these 2 worlds. She's literally quite grown up in that way. So the absence of black women in her life makes a lot of sense, because that influence was taken away from her and she was kept away from family for a ridiculously long part of her life, right? And in that absence, other influences kind of came in, which is not to say anything about her blackness at all, but how she is and who isn't around her makes sense. When Rowan talked about how, the CIA had to cage his power as a black man and try to, control it by taking him on in the CIA, I thought, dude, haven't you basically been kind of doing the same thing with your daughter for so many years? The whole against me, you will lose. Like, you always trying to tell her that you're not the person to fight because you're always going to win. You're always going to be in control. Therefore, Olivia has a place that she is to embody, and that place is not at your level or above you. It is not a place where she should be shining Fitz's shoes, as he said in 419, but it's also not a place where she challenges her father. And the place that she's going to inhabit right now, or he thinks she's going to inhabit, is the one that he wanted for her. So it's putting her in a place that he wants to keep her, thinks is best for her. I'm like, how is that so different than the government trying to contain your power? You've been trying to contain and direct hers for years, when it's not yours. It's not yours to do so with, right? Every child is, I'm getting into 614 now. Every child is an extension of their parents, but past a certain point, you're your own person, and those influences that come from your parents, they're just going to be there. There are things about me that as I've grown older, realize are so similar either to my mother or my father. And the older I get, the more I look like my mother. I was with her in Jamaica, and I haven't seen her in 4 years. And sometimes I look at parts of her and I think, oh, I have your eyes, or oh, that mole is the same, or mommy, you gave me your feet, or your crooked pinky, or, you know, those kinds of thing, and comparing where we're different and where we're the same. And that's just externally. But I've made peace with the fact that there are parts of me that are very much like her. And do I want to change them, or do I not want to change them? And I just want Olivia to have the autonomy to be able to do those things herself. She's almost 40. We're the same age. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's time. So I very much wanted Rowan to leave, for real. And I wish it were still possible, but we'll see what happens. I want to finish this because I feel like I've gone too much. Oh, the idea of Olivia as Rowan's Republic. I thought that was interesting, and I don't completely go along with that because Rowan has shown that he's been willing to sacrifice Olivia in the past for the sake of the Republic, right? And the stability of it. That her going away at the beginning of season 3 was supposed to kind of not just save her, but it was supposed to save the Republic. When she gets kidnapped in season 4 and he does nothing to help, is that for the sake of the Republic? Like, what if she had died and the Republic had still gone on, right? I can't see then that she would have been your Republic. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But I have said since season 2, I have receipts. You can go check out season 2 stuff, especially an essay I talked about from 218. I talked about Fitz was going to take responsibility for the things that Jake has inflicted on Olivia, which at that point didn't necessarily do. But I talked about Olivia being Fitz's America, right? That's the oath that he makes to America is really tantamount to the oath that he makes to Olivia's life and her pursuit of happiness that happens with the ring that he gives her in Vermont and saying, I just want you to be happy, risking the actual Republic for the sake of one person whose life he was committed to, right? She went above the Republic for him at nearly every turn. Y'all, what really shooketh your girl? Rowan apologized to Fitz. He went to the Oval himself and he apologized and he offered to help. And I said, wow, really? Thank you guys for putting a lot of your personal shit to the side. And I don't think you'll ever like each other, but for the sake of the woman that you both say you love, like, that needed to happen. And for the situation, it needed to happen. So respect all around. I don't have anything bad to say about that. Okay, let me just address this nasty woman scene because it was kind of pissing me off a little bit. I'm gonna give a guy who went to jail the presidency over you. Why? Because they want to put you in your place. And I was like, girl, do you not remember that you helped to place that man in prison because you were so pressed as shit to get up in that Oval when it wasn't yours? You lost fair and square. And I'm not about to sit here with this revisionist history because you saying that shit to Melly about being a nasty woman. It's just you trying to justify to yourself why you should be there when you shouldn't be there because you ain't earned shit. Do you notice, you guys, that Melly lost by a very similar margin to AU Fitz, and obviously what the actual count would have been without the votes in defiance, right? It was like 4,354 or something like that. It was 4,003 something. And Melly lost by like almost 5,000, and they both happened within a single county it came down to. So if Fitz was an illegitimate president because of that and the shenanigans that went on, and Olivia literally stopped the shenanigans from happening this time by having Huck go in and close the loophole, how is it that Melly deserved that presidency when people didn't choose her? Fitz came to the realization in the AU that, you know, America chose their president and it wasn't him. And it wasn't Melly either. So no, she doesn't deserve to be there. That doesn't mean that I don't think that she shouldn't have power or she shouldn't go on to do other things that she cared about. Would I know what she actually gave a fuck about? But the presidency, nah, bruh. He is gaining in some areas that I very much like, that we see more in 614 as far as her own will and resolve goes, and her decision to unashamedly love Fitz, although I really would like some kind of acknowledgement or talk about where the fuck they're going. And I just feel like they're going to give it to us in argument form, because something is going to happen for Olivia. There's going to be some kind of roadblock that she didn't expect, where she's going to have to do some thinking about her future. And it's going to affect her relationship. And something is going to come to a head. I don't feel a breakup is coming, but a talk needs to be had. Olivia says to Melly, this is not their White House, it's ours, right? Again, not that it's yours, Melly, it's ours, meaning Olivia feels rightful ownership to it. I love that she says, neither of us is leaving without a fight. Trust. That's such a Black girl thing, right? Not trust me, but trust. Of course, the last kind of slavery thing is Paya's calling Rowan boy, right? And also telling him he's emancipated, right? Which parallels nicely with Paya's telling Rowan that he's a strong back that they're going to be able to use, you know, back in episode 606. So from the moment Paya said that shit to Rowan, I was like, you are deader than a motherfucker, because no one talks to Rowan that way and lives. And we all remember Rowan calling Fitz boy, and recently this episode, you know, calling him a toddler, which goes back to what I said about how he tries to contrast himself and his own masculinity with Fitz's to prove himself as smarter, as stronger, as bigger than, which all of that showboating masks a deep kind of hurt and insecurity, because anybody who's actually secure in themselves doesn't need to talk about themselves in that way, right? You show up and people know that about you. Let me see. Oh, okay, so the last scene, I gotta talk about this. Okay, the last scene, Rowan, obviously he kills Ponytail, and with the tooth for the dinosaur he's been putting to get skeleton he's been putting together. And he says, right before he drives it into her abdomen, this is freedom. And so freedom is not just killing your tormentors, but what he was doing is ensuring that his progeny would be free as well by killing them, because eliminating them as a threat also eliminating them using him to be able to control Olivia and her life, right? Family in the form of him wouldn't be used against her if he got rid of the people who were using him in that way. So again, this is another kind of slavery theme here, how ensuring freedom for your children, enslaved Black people, like that was the most precious thing that they could ever have come true, right? The ones who were woke enough, right? Or could be radical enough to imagine freedom, because it was really a radical act to think, I am not meant to be in chains. I am not meant to be someone's property. I am meant to be free, and I want my children to be free, right? So ensuring that freedom, Rowan thinks that that's what he's doing here. And I hope that you peeped that the dinosaur he puts together, the last puzzle piece, is symbolically Olivia also heading to the also heading to the White House, being on the precipice of that, which comes out in 614, because the dinosaur is a she. He gets everything in place perfect to the point that he can now leave it and give it to the American, the Museum of Natural History. Shout out to them. I used to work there, at the Smithsonian. And Olivia's about to go to her own government building, right? He doesn't have to allow his species to be extinct. He doesn't have to end up like that dinosaur extinct, because he's found a way to keep living, he thinks, through his daughter by ensuring her freedom, right? So that's the last kind of piece that we get in this episode. See, I told y'all there are a lot of kind of slavery teas going on in here, which I feel like we should talk about those things more. It's not anything to be ashamed of. We didn't do anything wrong, right? Our ability and our ancestors' ability to survive that, and for us to try to make life for ourselves, is just a testament to our resolve and willingness. All right, so I'm going to do another video on 614. Thanks.